All right, let's dive right into this explainer. Today we're unpacking the fascinating and honestly deeply manipulative architecture of the Figu movement. We're going to use it as a sort of universal case study because by looking at exactly how this specific group operates, we can really learn how to spot the hidden traps of high-control systems and ultimately reclaim our mental sovereignty.
But before we get into the nitty-gritty, I want you to just sit with this startling question for a second. Seriously, think about it. Would you trust a spiritual guide who openly admits they have lied to you in literally every single past life? Keep that in the back of your mind, because it perfectly sets up the absolute absurdity we're about to explore.
Because this lore is pretty dense, here's our roadmap for today. First, the license to lie. Second, the Nokodemion Paradox. Third, a history of harm. Fourth, why we seek profits. And fifth, reclaiming mental sovereignty. Let's get to it.
Starting with Section 1, the license to lie, which is, incredibly, a stated policy.
There was this real, face-to-face encounter where a leader known as CF, who is basically the right-hand man to Billy Meier, was confronted directly by a follower, and he looked him right in the eye and said he would lie to protect the movement. Think about that for a second. This proves deception isn't some accent or bug in this system. It's a feature. When the second-in-command openly admits that preserving the organization matters more than telling the truth to the very people funding it and dedicating their lives to it, well, you're looking at the core blueprint of manipulation.
And building on that, Billy Meier's own writings, in a text literally titled, "Those Who Lie About the Contacts," explicitly state that a wise prophet lies. This wild rationalization is actually used to excuse his thoroughly debunked UFO evidence. When independent investigators proved his UFO photos were just models made out of household trash can lids, the organization's response was honestly unhinged. They claimed the aliens deliberately made the ships look like garbage can lids, and that the prophet lied on purpose just to weed out the people who weren't ready. It's an incredibly convenient, if completely ridiculous, loophole. I mean, come on, interstellar travel requires a lid from a 1970s dustbin? So this brilliantly illustrates the immediate contradiction we're dealing with. How could you possibly trust a group obsessed with claiming they have the ultimate truth when its leaders are entirely comfortable telling you they lie? It's a closed-loop system. If a prophecy fails or evidence is undeniably debunked, they just hit you with, "Oh, it was a strategic deception, you just aren't spiritually advanced enough to get it yet." It weaponizes your natural skepticism against you, forcing you to doubt your own common sense instead of doubting the guy holding a trash can lid on a string. Which brings us to Section 2, the Nokodemion Paradox, and the idea of the cosmic architect.
So, to rationalize why his writings sound so much like plagiarized versions of other major world religions, Meier claims he's actually the reincarnation of the original spirit that founded all of them, right? He kind of has to do this to make his newly invented text seem deeply ancient and historically grounded. So he introduces Nokodemion, an ancient cosmic architect spirit tasked with bringing truth to civilizations over millions of years. It's a very clever, though wildly arrogant way of just hijacking the credibility of thousands of years of human history.
Just seeing this linear map of his claimed incarnations really highlights the sheer megalomania of it all. According to Figu lore, Meier was Enoch, Elijah, Jemanuel, which is his version of Jesus, and Muhammad. This absolutely forces followers to view him not just as some UFO researcher, but as the universe's most crucial and fallible prophet. By placing himself at the very end of this timeline, he demands absolute spiritual authority. He isn't just a guy with a telescope anymore, he's setting himself up as the alpha and omega of cosmic knowledge.
But let's look at Section 3, a history of harm, because this is where the metaphysical house of cards completely collapses. Look at the actual architecture of this lore under a sober light. By his own canon, every single incarnation of this Nokodemion spirit is a walking disaster. He forces dogma onto people. He claims the religions he started in past lives became universal cancers. He openly admits to imposing toxic structures on other planets, creating advanced human clones that became violently out of control, and just repeatedly lying to entire civilizations. He weaponizes belief and leaves a trail of bloodshed over and over again throughout galactic history.
So the crucial point is this bizarre, impossible contradiction. He wants to have his cake and eat it too. He constantly takes credit for the past, while simultaneously attacking those exact past lives for creating toxic dogma. He critiques Christianity, yet his goblet of truth essentially copies its talking points. He critiques Islam as corrupted, yet blatantly lifts verses directly from the Quran. He steals the authority of the past while claiming that only his current self possesses the uncorrupted truth.
And that brings us right back to our opening question. We really have to ask ourselves, if a guide admits they poisoned you in 5 past lives, Why on earth would you blindly trust them this time? And he isn't even promising he won't lie now. He's literally telling you prophets always lie. This logic isn't divine. It's a profound form of spiritual abuse. You are essentially being asked to put your faith in a historical track record of absolute galactic chaos.
Section 4. Why we seek prophets in the first place and our deep desire for certainty.
I want to offer a real empathy ping here, because falling for these systems isn't about being stupid, not at all. Dr. Jan Jalalich's framework of bounded choice perfectly explains how this works. It's really about a deeply human desire for certainty that gets expertly exploited. High-control environments intentionally cultivate an external locus of control. They do this through isolation, constant shaming, making you doubt your own memories, and forcing you to rely entirely on the leader for any sense of validation. Over time, they systematically teach normal, highly intelligent people that they just cannot trust their own minds.
When people leave one high-control group, say strict evangelicalism, they often carry this implanted pseudo-identity with them. Because they've been trained to outsource their critical thinking, this pseudo-identity completely lacks self-trust. It actively seeks out a new, external authority to step in and tell it what is safe and what is true. So you might see someone leave a dogmatic church only to immediately adopt a secular or UFO guru who perfectly replicates the exact same authoritarian dynamics they thought they were escaping.
The trap locks shut through a few key mechanisms. First, cognitive dissonance addiction. If you invest years and thousands of dollars into a group, it becomes psychologically agonizing to admit you were wrong, so your brain just creates excuses to stay. Then you have spiritual grandiosity. Cults make you feel like you are part of this tiny, elite fraction of humanity that actually understands the universe, which is incredibly intoxicating. Third is the prophet worship loop. This tricks you into believing the leader's admitted lies are just strategic divine mercy testing your faith, turning massive red flags into badges of honor. And finally, community as captivity. Leaving means losing your entire support system, your friends, your whole identity. It's a systemic captivity where you trade your autonomy for the illusion of belonging and cosmic certainty.
Let's move to Section 5, reclaiming mental sovereignty and getting your mind back. See, the leader of a cult can never just be a regular person. If they were, they'd be held accountable to the exact same rules they force on everyone else. They have to be seen as special or divine or a millions of years old ancient spirit, so their flaws and massive contradictions can just be written off as advanced wisdom. But the sickness isn't just in the prophet who craves admiration. It's in the artificially manufactured need for a prophet in the first place.
A prophet is essentially someone selling you a cure when you aren't actually sick. But to make that sale, they first have to convince you that your own mind is broken, deceitful, and completely unable to grasp the truth without them. We see this exact same dynamic everywhere, right? In wellness grifts, toxic workplaces, rigid political spheres. Deconstructing these truths isn't about leaving Figu or any other high-control group just to find a better prophet to follow. It's about realizing you didn't need the cure to begin with.
This explainer's ultimate takeaway is that no entity, not Billy Meier, not an extraterrestrial, not a religious institution, has the right to remove your agency or act as an absolute middleman between you and the truth. You absolutely do not need a prophet to speak to the sacred.
As you step away from the manipulation of high-control groups and shed the pseudo-identities they try to force upon you, remember this one profound and unbreakable truth. Your mind belongs to you, no one else. So the next time someone offers you the absolute, unvarnished secrets of the universe, ask yourself, what are they asking you to surrender in return?